Thanks for joining us. This is Live with the Miami's Community News, and our guest today, we're just going to call you Nikki.
Okay.
All right?
Good.
So, Nikki, you're going to help us understand a little bit more about becoming centered and being peaceful through different tools, including meditation.
Yes.
People want to know, how did that start for you, and when was that?
Bumpy roads, Michael. Probably the greatest teacher that we can all ask for is life. And I hadn't any intention of becoming a wellness practitioner in any form. My initial awakening, if you want to call it, was animals, recognizing how poorly they're treated in our culture, specifically in the zoo situation. I realized I had to have a meaningful life. I didn't want to just get out of bed for a paycheck. I wanted to do something that really felt nourishing to my soul. And when I came across, I was up at Busch Gardens in Tampa, and I was staring at the silverback gorilla in this exhibit, and my heart sunk. They looked so sad, depressed, and miserable. I was like, wow, okay, wait, what are we doing? I was in college, so I was starting to think out of the box anyway. And then I realized, I don't know how I'm going to get into this, but I really want to help get him and all of his comrades out of zoos to give them their freedom back. So I pursued my degree in wildlife ecology and conservation from the University of Florida. And in that process, I learned my blinders blew off about the human enterprise and how we're interacting with the natural world around us. And I just became so awakened and activated, and I found that meaningful life that I had been craving, and it was to be a voice for them. And in doing so, many of my colleagues and friends will say the more you open your eyes to what's really happening, the more it hurts, because you're seeing what you would have otherwise decided you didn't want to look at. But that level of pain awakened something inside of me that was almost like a mama bear energy that is, okay, I'm doing something. I'm not just going to sit and stew in misery and pain. I'm going to find a way to channel this, find my own peace with it, and then be of service.
But find peace with, meaning there will be animals that are caged, or what do you mean?
Good question. Finding peace with what is happening. Because when you open your eyes to what's really happening in the world, it can be really painful. When you finally let yourself see what has been culturally supported to not look at.
So here's a very deep question. When you said, gee, it blew the blinders blew off. Mm-hmm. My question is, aren't the blinders still there for all of us, no matter how much we expand? We go, okay, well, this is what I'm seeing today, but really, maybe there's a whole lot more. I'm just not done with this part.
Right. No, I love that, because yes, and I'm still wearing blinders in some capacity to something. And it's not about perfection and living in this utopian reality. It's about it's your relationship to what is. And so I started to become aware of where I was choosing, that's too uncomfortable, I don't even want to discuss it. So I was finally letting myself look at it and then feel the discomfort associated with it and be okay with it.
Was somebody on your journey with you to this awareness?
No.
Just by yourself on that journey?
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I started to, by virtue of being a Gemini, I'm a talker. So I was sharing my perspectives and awakenings, and then others who had a similar perspective would say, oh yeah, me too. And so then I started to create little pods, and then I connected with others who had activist communities, and then I got into that.
I mentioned you before, years ago, I took a Buddhist meditation class, and it was at the Four Ambassadors. That's how long ago it was. I don't know if there were thousands, but a couple of rooms filled. And it was listening to this gong, a big gong, and they would say, don't put a name on it, don't put a name on it, don't put a name. And after a while, when you didn't put a name on it, you were in this space. And that you didn't know you were in the space, because if you knew you were in the space, then you really weren't in the space. You were looking at the space.
Right.
And that was certainly an awakening for me, as far as to explore yourself. And I see there's lots of tests that are being done now with LSD, see if they can help some people to get them to a place of where they might be able to have a little bit more insight. Yeah. So tell us what you did concerning the animals.
Well, I became very depressed, as you could imagine, that I'm letting myself look at what's really happening to the natural world. And in that process, I realized I can't be angry and be of service. I just knew this intuitively. Like, if I want to help the pain and the suffering for animals in the world, I had to find a way to be at peace with myself. So I went through therapy and did all the things and discovered yoga. Kind of through the back door. I didn't think it was real exercise. I was going to the gym and doing that stuff, but I thought yoga was for people who
sort
didn't
of in a lotus position over here, sort of.
I'm like, cross my legs. But so I pursued it. It's a long story, but once I got involved in yoga, and my therapist encouraged me to try meditation, which my brain was so crazy. I was like, there's no way. Meditation is not for me.
And then meditation.
Yeah.
But don't some people, when they do yoga, in fact, that's their meditative state?
Yeah. We don't realize it. It gets you there. Any level of mindful movement is a form of meditation. People think I can't sit still and Om Shanti. You can rock climb, and that's a form of meditation.
So sometimes when in the schools they say there's not going to be prayer, but there's going to be a moment of silent meditation. Some people don't think anything. Some people think things, and some people ask me frequently, "Well, so is praying like meditation?" I said, I sense that if you're thinking this prayer, all right, versus meditation, which you try not to think of anything. Do I have that correct?
No,
No,
actually, no. That I feel is one of the stages of consciousness. And that was a big stumbling block for me in the beginning of my meditation life, because I thought also I was supposed to be in complete silence. But no, especially as we step into this new practice, there's very beneficial practices of mantras, repeating a mantra in your head,
Yes.
or like TM, transcendental meditation, has like a certain visual aspect. There's breath work, which I am a huge proponent for breath work, and I'm going to encourage us to do a breathing exercise today. There's a lot of guided meditation, which I have some on my YouTube page, because in the beginning, especially, what you're doing is learning to have a relationship with your thinking mind. Your thinking mind is never going to turn off. It's what it does, it thinks. So what you're wanting to do is to show up in a different way, again, relationship, and become the observer. Be the observer.
People
of
can
your
find
thoughts.
information for the root of all peace, PEACE. I think it's on the screen.com.
Yeah.
They can find you.
Yes.
Okay. So there's different types of meditation, and are there different types of yoga,
Absolutely.
right? And there's a lot of positions in yoga. A lot.
There are a lot, and it's not something, it can seem intimidating, especially in today's Western yoga culture, where it's the perfect body, the tight clothing, and these fancy poses. But that's not the totality of yoga. Yoga is for you to have a relationship and a union with your mind, body, and spirit, such that you are okay in your beingness and you understand your body. That's what we're learning to do, is to speak body.
So when I think yoga, I think commercials that I've seen on TV, and everybody's dressed appropriately for what we think of appropriate. Yeah. So I'm thinking, well, what would I wear to a yoga thing?
Yeah.
Right. And after a while, I used to run a lot. And so after a while, I knew there was a uniform, even though it wasn't explicit. It was pretty clear when you look, and there's 500 or 5,000 people wearing certain types of things. So how do you get in to synchronize all those things at the same moment?
Synchronize what things?
Your body and
your body, mind, your spirit. Well, I have found the quickest route is breath work. Just sitting in stillness and doing a very powerful breathing process, which we can do in a moment. And then, again, it's getting into the understanding that you don't want to wrestle your thinking mind to the ground. That's not what this is. And in fact, if you try, you are pushing yourself deeper in the pit of thought. That's how energy works. What you're learning to do is to speak energy and be present with whatever is, whether it's in your mind, in your family, or in your world.
So there are a lot of people that enter this arena on all sorts of levels. You have the beginning practitioner that goes once a week or twice a week to a group. There's some that try it by themselves. So what's the advantage of each of those for the new person?
I highly encourage, and I've been doing yoga since 2007, I think. I became a teacher in 2014. But what I've noticed, and I can say this because I went through the pain of not doing this, is don't start in big group classes. Please, please, please don't start on YouTube. It's appetizing to do that in the moment because it's something. And for just gentle stretching, that could be okay. But my wrists, my ankles, I wasn't holding my weight properly. I wasn't holding the positions properly when I was in these huge classes or doing classes on YouTube, that I was building bad habits. So if you have a one-on-one, which is my favorite option, or even a smaller intimate class, then you have more attention from your guide, who can be like, I'll rotate your feet out a little bit, soften your toes, press into your fingers, so you're not causing injury.
It's sort of like a one-on-one with any coach or physical therapist, which is you can get immediate feedback, all right, versus in a big group, you're not getting it, and you're going to be doing it not as good as you could if you had more attention.
Right. And it's not about, because we also tend to look at the people around us and compare. This doesn't just happen on the mat, Michael. This is happening as an epidemic on the planet right now.
Isn't that what happens when we look at
others.
YouTube? That's what we're doing. And we don't know if whoever they are doing it the best thing for you. So different types of meditation. And if somebody who said, you know what, I want to try to connect a little bit. I want to do some pausing in my life.
Yeah.
What should they do?
Okay, right now, I'm going to show you this absolutely time-stopping practice that is going to change the face of how we interact with
Can we make
ourselves
sure
in
we have a
life.
camera on her, please? Thank you.
Okay, so I want everybody now, Michael, join us.
Okay.
One hand on your belly, one hand on your chest, and close your eyes. And just notice how you're breathing in this moment. Don't try to change anything or judge it. Just notice where you feel the air, where you feel your body expanding and where you feel it contracting. Most of us breathe in our chest, very high up, very rapid, very shallow. That's very survival oriented, and it keeps our consciousness in a very fight or flight state. We want to expand into parasympathetic, which is including the entirety of your lungs. So empty your old air. You're going to feel yourself deflate like a balloon. Pull your belly button into your spine, completely empty. Feel yourself completely empty. Feel that balloon inside of you empty. And you're going to slowly breathe in through your nostrils to fill your low belly first. So press your belly into your hand as you inhale deep. You'll feel your belly gently pushing your hand. Sometimes it takes a few rounds to get this. It's a different area for most of us. Round belly, nice like a basketball. Fill your belly up. And then exhale, pulling your belly button back into your spine. We're isolating the stomach. And we're going to do this again, slow and deep. And this time for the ribs and chest. So take this next breath in, fill your ribs, fill your chest. You might feel your shoulders rise. Try to keep them soft and low. Fill your ribs, feel your body press into the back of your chair. Fill up nice and big. And with your mouth open, let this go. You'll notice you're getting a little more tingly, a little more heavy. This time we're going to blend the belly and the chest. So slowly empty your body and then inhale from your low belly first. Feel a tidal wave of air around your belly. Feel your side ribs, your back ribs, your chest, your collarbones. Breathing in all the way into the tips of your shoulders. Breathe into your ears. Hold this fresh breath at the top. Stay round and full like a basketball. See if you can take an extra sip in. And with your mouth open, let it go. Go ahead and rest your arms. And right then and there can shift your consciousness out of reactivity into more observer.
There's no question that you have to have a guide with this. There's no question.
Yeah.
All right. And the closer they are, the more they can correct you and guide you correctly.
Right.
And I actually, when I was doing it, I realized, it was pretty shallow here. I can feel it. It's just the way that it is.
Yeah.
And then putting the air down here changed. All right. And I haven't done this in a long time. When you said to go to the ribs, that made a difference.
It
right?
does.
Yes.
It really does. And we don't realize that our body is a beautiful communication vessel. It never fails. It never fights us. It never just shuts down just because it's faulty or, defunct. What we're seeing with our bodies is a communication. We don't understand it yet. It's a language we haven't mastered. But stuff like this, doing this deep, intentional breathing practice shifts you out of fight or flight. There's a threat around every corner. My identity is being compromised to, okay, this person just did this thing and maybe they have a good reason for it. It completely shifts the way you interpret reality. Your veil completely shifts toward one of understanding and patience.
So we know during the pandemic, more than 25% of people sought mental health care. And that my guess is it's double or triple that by the time you got done because of the stress that is there, always wondering. I was with somebody this morning, he says, your last event, 2 weeks later, I got COVID. Did I give it to people? So here it is. A year later, he's talking about that moment.
Yeah.
And it's like, and so when I listen to it, it's like, he's carrying that with him. All right.
I know.
And it's like, maybe he got at the football game with the other 40,000 people.
Yeah.
All right. So, and if people haven't done this type of thing, where do they need to get in their heads to be able to say, I'm going to go try that? It's like the first time you go to a chiropractor or a stretch therapist or a health therapist, whatever. What's part of the thinking? Questions should they ask themselves?
I think the answer to that has evolved incredibly in the last 3 years. I think whether this past 3 years affected you personally, I think we're more all aware of the value of our health and that we've really taken it for granted, treating our body like a trash can, putting anything in it, whether it's food, drink, TV, information, relationships, practices, whatever. And I think it's still popular for us to be reactive in terms of, okay, I don't want the consequences of poor health, so I'll seek it. But we're seeing right now, just like you said, stress, depression, insomnia, those are the big top three. wanting to improve your relationships, wanting to improve. I mean, we're all energetic beings, and everything is a reflection of our personal vibration. So if we keep dating the same person in a different body, we keep having the same boss, we keep having the same money problems, we keep getting rear-ended, energetically, there's some kind of a signature that we're pulsing out, and it's the law of attraction that's bringing us into a conversation with our own energy. So things tend to get really uncomfortable for us to say, okay, all of my tools don't work. Everything I've ever tried, what my mom told me, what I used to do, inner space, which you have an infinite amount of calm and peace and clarity and wisdom and healing inside of you. And that, and this is not new information. This is ancient wisdom that we're now starting to give a little bit more credibility to, because we can't always trust the outside world to meet our needs. We have to know we have more power than we've ever thought.
So when you go to companies and help them, when you have a conversation with the decision maker, the boss, and he listens to you, what is he thinking?
The bottom line, is this going to benefit me both in time and money? But what I've seen with private clients, with corporate clients, with students, everybody who's starting to feel the call of some kind of something bigger, we're seeing, number one, sleep improves. People message me all the time, Nikki, your breathwork class blew my mind. I've never felt so peaceful. I was able to digest my food a lot easier, and I slept the whole night through. I was less reactive with my kids. My husband wasn't getting on my nerves like he normally does.
And that's because they started being at peace, and they use different tools to get there.
Right. Plus it's perspective, Michael, because perspective of how we interpret reality determines whether we are in feeling supported. Einstein had the best quote ever. He's like, the biggest and most important question you ever ask is whether you feel the universe is hostile or friendly. And it's that fundamental belief that you carry from your morning to night that determines how you interpret others. And when you do the breathing that we just did, up here is hostile, down here is friendly. And you have a completely different way of responding to your boss, and thereby have a different vibration, which can elevate you. It can upshift you into a new experience with new players.
Sometimes when we see policemen are chasing down the bad guy and they finally catch him, sometimes, most of the time, they get treated okay. Meanwhile, there's some cops that lose it and they do stupid stuff, right? Because there's something happens when that adrenaline gets going, all right?
Yeah.
So if people are feeling anxious, all right, and they know it, they feel it, they're nervous, and they can't stand because of the traffic light, they're throwing the phone across the street and everything. What would you suggest that they might do so they can just take a look at themselves?
Beautiful question. And so I have that breathing technique we just did, big one. Doing a few rounds of those, maybe setting a timer. I encourage everybody to do that once an hour at least. Set a timer where you do one of those 3-part breaths, the belly, rib, chest. Doing one of those every hour, you'll see a dramatic shift in that. But also I have a specific YouTube video for anxiety, a breathing technique for anxiety. But that police officer and our other people in levels of kind of authority, they're pressure cookers, because we haven't given the credibility to emotional health. And we've seen that, especially in the last 3 years, that it's a pressure cooker.
So my kids got me the, what kind of watch is that, Richard? The Apple Watch.
Okay. Yeah.
Every hour. If I haven't gotten up, it says time to stand up and go walk around. I go, oh, and just by virtue of that reminder puts me back in control, all right, for that moment, which is, oh, you're doing something for yourself.
Yeah.
And so I get up and walk around, and then it says, congratulations,
yes,
pat on the back, way to go.
Positive reinforcement.
Yes. So let's, we have a couple videos. All right? If we could put up one of the videos, and then we can comment on it. We can listen to it. It's going to be a 1-minute video. Yeah. And then after it's over, we'll comment on it.
Great.
Grocery store, whatever the drama energy is, it's not going to have a food source, because we will have healed our energetic contribution to it. This is a meditation that's focusing intentionally on global healing, which, hello, we could use a little of that, as well as personal activation, because here's the truth about energy. Earth is just a big mirror showing humanity what's going on inside of us. We are literally one, each of us. We're having our own little meat suit experience with this oneness energy. So if there's drama on the global stage, it's because we've got drama going on with our inner stage. We all have our own flavor of this. So the more we do our inner work, mark my words, the more we do our inner work, the less we're going to see drama happening in the outside world. Ukraine, Yemen, Syria, all these places. your local, grocery store, whatever the drama energy is, it's not going to have a food source because we will have healed our energetic contribution to it. This is a meditation that's focusing intentionally on global healing.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Tell us where that was.
That was at a nature preserve in Homestead. And once it's cooler, I lead guided meditation nature hikes for groups, really small, intimate groups where we go out and play and connect with nature. And then we do a global healing meditation. I do it on my Instagram live. And there's a bunch of them on all of my social media outlets for literally global healing.
When we try to put ourselves in perspective to the universe, all of a sudden you realize that we're so similar to so many other things.
Yeah.
We had the folks from Miami-Dade mosquito control here. I was talking to Dr. Petrie, he's one of the top guys there. I said, what is the purpose of the mosquito?
Right.
And he said, it's to eat and reproduce.
Right.
And then he looked at me. He said, what is your purpose?
Ooh.
And then you start thinking about that.
Yeah.
And when we see the life cycle, I live on a farm. When we feed the cats, the dogs eat part of it, the doves eat part of it, the peacocks eat part of it, the toads eat part of it, the hawks go after the doves, all right?
Yeah.
And then the chickens eat the remainder. Then you realize we're all part of that cycle.
Yeah.
And then when we can get at peace with all of that, it seems to be our lives might be a little bit better, right? And there's an old saying, be prepared to be eaten. Right?
Okay, yeah. Yeah.
When we watch on Facebook and YouTube and TikTok, seeing in Africa where the lions are eating the other animals, there's a part of it where you go, oh, it's terrible. No, it's the way it works, right? Because the lion needs to eat. And then the one that's dying has got a baby somewhere, but that's that whole cycle. So how do we get a little bit more centered so that we feel better? So then maybe that's the time where somebody will seek additional help on their journey.
Right. So understanding that things are playing out. And again, it comes back to that first quote by Einstein, whether you think the world is hostile or benevolent. And then also looking at your own feelings of worthiness. That's one of in my own path, as I've pursued finding ways to help humanity fall in love with themselves, which is my driving goal. I realize if I want to help animals, they're fine. It's just humanity who's kind of got a dominant role on this planet that I need to really dive in and support. And I found just in my own life with my clients, with my friends and colleagues, that the number one little grain of rice that we all have in common is a fundamental feeling of not being worthy, not being good enough, not being whole, who and as we are in this now moment. And it shows up in different ways for all of us. For this person who has a lot of influence running a third world country, they could be, completely mistreating all of their people, where when it shows up for the soccer mom, she may just be, on her cell phone the whole time at her kid's game. So it shows up differently in those two people based on the roles that they're in, but it's a fundamental kind of truth, unfortunately, for a lot of us. So I'm guided to help people come in, peel the layers away, and find that they are fundamentally beautiful and fabulous and lovable as they are. And that is going to create a ripple of healing.
Sometimes people equate money with being disconnected. Yeah. So I look at Mother Teresa, all right? And you look at the richest men in the world who spend a huge amount of their time and money helping other people. So some people do it and are paupers, and that's perfect, and they are as rich as can be. And the other people that have money try to help that. And one of the big billionaires gave, I don't know, $10 or $20 million to two big people to try to help them make the world a better place. And so, again, some people equate making money as not a good thing, right? And that if it's going to be somebody that's at peace, they got to be some hippie from the 60s, right?
Yeah.
Were you a hippie in the 60s?
I wasn't around.
I know.
Thank you for that, Michael.
Oh, you're welcome.
I wasn't even an idea yet, I don't think.
Yes, you were. Right?
In the eyes of the universe, but not my parents. Let's just be clear.
So people can find out more about you at the root of all peace, PEACE. I think it's on the thing.com.
Yes.
And they go and they can see your YouTube things that you do.
My YouTube, my Instagram. My Instagram is the most active. So that's the place to go.
And that's the place to do that?
Yeah.
So tell me about TikTok and you.
I'm not in TikTok. I did not want to get involved in social media back in college when it really started booming back in 2006. But I've been an organizer for animal rights, environmental cleanliness and healing. So I had to get on social media. But TikTok, I don't know, and I haven't really even tried, but I feel really solid where I am right now.
So I live on a farm.
Yeah.
It happens to be birds. And a friend of mine who 40 years ago, she bought her first bird from me. I've been friendly with her ever since. She told me back about 20 years ago, you should let all your birds free, all exotic birds free. And I said, I know, her name was Regina, I know that you believe that, all right? And sometimes in the back of my head, I'm going, yes, I would rather be flying around, all right, in South America, and it would be wonderful, all right?
Yeah.
Or African gray down in Ghana, Africa. And then you realize, but I like to make a living with it too. And trying to find that balance sometimes is very difficult. So how do you equate a man who's been very peaceful with himself and with the universe, who's now in a war and he has to kill somebody? He has a gun in his hand.
What a heavy question to throw at me, Michael. Well, you know, my perspective on all things is intention is kind of everything. Your intention determines the outcome of what you're doing. And so I genuinely feel if you're coming from a place of love and trust, then you will be guided in any moment the highest and best path to go. But when yoga teacher training, one of the most powerful resources that we were guided to read was the Bhagavad Gita. And one of the many messages from that text that I took away was don't try to be more spiritual than you are. Because we sometimes do the spiritual bypass and I'm just going to Om Shanti Shanti, love and light everybody. But that's not your truth. Speak your truth, feel your truth, own it. Don't splatter it on people and make chaos all over, but own it for yourself, validate yourself, and be raw and honest. You will, again, law of attraction, draw people and resources to support you when you do that.
And so wherever somebody is, that's a perfect place.
Always. We don't think that way. That's the way the thinking brain is like, no, I want to be here. I'm not there. So where I'm at is bad. But there's a relationship to that space in between.
Noted
that
author
will get you there.
Dr. Wayne Dyer says we suffer from the disease of more. So wherever we are, all right, that's fine. And if one day you decide to be someplace else, that's fine. And maybe with this guidance, you or some other guide, to be able to help people find a little bit more peace.
Yeah.
And especially when things are uneasy, right? As they sometimes get. I've learned over the years, maybe it's almost always like that. And there's times there's a pause, right? But there's always these things that are going on.
Yes.
Tide comes in, tide goes out, sun goes up. It's cold, it's hot.
Thank you for that. I need to drive this message home too. You plugged that beautifully, because if you're on this path of personal awareness and healing, it goes like this. And you feel like, oh, I was doing so great yesterday, I'm in the pit today. What you're going to notice if you were to zoom out is that you're going up and down, but it's like that marker you're constantly elevating. As long as you intend, again, intention is everything, to be in your truth, to align your higher self with your human. If that's your intention, then you're going to be detoxing. It's going to be unpleasant. Stuff's going to come up that you're not going to want to deal with, but you have to. That's the only way to move beyond it, is to go through it. So you have a relationship with it where you're more understanding of yourself and others, but you're always on the upswing.
Okay. We have 1 minute left.
Okay.
And I'd like you to talk to some young person that's out there, 16 to 50, still young in there, about this time in their lives and about the future. You ready?
Yeah,
You're talking to that camera right there.
I am ready, you beautiful souls. Just know, please know that you are here because as the universe thought Saturn and chocolates and cougars and forests were a good idea, so are you. And we all have a powerful gift inside that we are looking around and comparing ourselves to others and doing what we're thinking we're supposed to do, what other people expect of us, especially my young brothers and sisters. Know that you are a unique expression of the divine, of source energy, and don't tether yourself based on expectations of others. Just get into your feeling state, get into your truth, get still, and you'll find that life is a joyride. You'll enjoy your steps and the people and the opportunities that come to you because they will match what's uniquely you, not what you're being told to do.
Wow. Nikki, thank you. You can find her all over Instagram. Folks, thanks for joining us. And for our studio audience out there, folks, have a great day and take care of yourself.